This is the Shiftheads podcast with Shane Hewitt and friends.
Welcome to the Shiftheads podcast. I'm Shane Hewitt. It is time for us here on the group to check in with Blaine Kyllo and the technological world that he likes to get plugged into. Blaine, welcome to 2024. This is our first chat of 2024. And as I have this conversation with you, because you are from the area that I'm from, which is Calgary, Southern Alberta, you know this moment. You see, wherever we live, the weather does the same thing most every day. The wind blows from the west, it blows to the east, and that's predictable. Well, when the wind goes from the east to the west, that's always like, well, probably not going to be a great day. But if you live in Calgary, or if you have ever been in Calgary, and all of a sudden the wind comes from the north, it changes things, right? And that's what's happening now. The snow is blowing from the north to the south as we have this conversation. How are you?
I'm well. We're lucky we're getting snow here. I say lucky because in Vancouver, where I live now, we haven't had a lot of snow, which means we haven't been skiing. And so actually the first skiing that my kid and I did was on Sunday just for a little bit because there hasn't really been snow.
Mm-hmm.
But then they got 30 centimeters the next day, and I think we're due for another 30 or 40 over the week. So proper skiing begins this weekend.
Well, and even around the mountains in BC and in Alberta, in the Rockies, they've just opened up some of the runs, right? I mean, so it's really late this year. But when it comes to this El Nino weather, that usually means we get absolutely pummeled with snow later in the spring. So let's hope that plays out.
Yeah, we'll just ski later.
More later. That's cool. Okay, now that's not what we're here to talk about. We're back to the world of gaming with Blaine Kyllo, as we do. Solocore.com to connect with Blaine, shiftheads.ca to connect with the group, and Resident Evil 4. Maybe let's go back in time with Resident Evil for those who don't know the history of this, because it's been around for a long time. Incredibly popular game, Blaine. And I'll put the links up to this in the description below so everyone can check it out and see it for themselves. But it's been around for a long time. This is one of the trusted, tried and true.
It is. This is a game from Capcom, a development and production house. And Resident Evil was the game that really refined this notion of the survival horror. And so these are horror adventure games. The Resident Evil games were quite noted because they had a limited amount of space in your backpack. And so as you were collecting resources that you were going to use as you played through the game, you actually had to be very careful about how you managed what you had and also how you spent what you had. Because if you've only got 6 bullets, are you going to use a bullet to kill that zombie that's coming after you? Or are you going to use something else because it might be a while before you see any more bullets? And so this notion of being able to manage your resources while you're trying to survive a zombie apocalypse was something that became really part of Resident Evil. Resident Evil 4, in the sort of bigger franchise, was a really fundamentally different game because it took advantage of some of the graphical possibilities that were around for consoles when it was first released. And last year, Capcom started releasing upgraded versions of Resident Evil 4 for common current day consoles. And what they've done since is they've made Resident Evil 4 playable on, get this, an iPhone.
Now, are they late at this? Because it seems like the opportunity for this to happen has been around. Some of the console developers have really made the controllers be Bluetooth. You can connect them to different tablets. I mean, the opportunity for these things to happen is there. Or is this classic Apple making things difficult for everybody because they want to have control of all the games and stuff in their own gaming library? Which way do you think that one goes?
It's neither of those, actually. The reason that we haven't had this happen before is because, frankly, even Resident Evil 4, a game that's, a few years old now, requires so much computing power that actually, even though you can play this on an iPhone 15 Pro, it's not the best experience playing on an iPhone 15 Pro. Now, the fact that you can play it on an iPhone 15 Pro alone kind of indicates the capability, just the sheer power of the iPhone, that model of iPhone, and of some of the technology that Apple has brought out to try and bring games to Apple platforms. But it's laggy when you're playing through RE4 on an iPhone. Things will freeze. You'll go to make a move, and the screen will freeze on you, and it will come back as the zombies crunching on your neck. So it's not a great experience, and it's not recommended, especially because to be able to play Resident Evil 4 on an iPhone, you're paying the same price that you would pay to play Resident Evil 4 on your Xbox Series S or X or on your PS5. And if you're going to have a not great experience, save that money and spend it on the premium experience instead. Now, you can also play Resident Evil 4 on the MacBooks and on the new iMacs as well. So it's not just an iPhone that you can play this on. If you buy it on your iPhone, I think you can play it on all your Apple devices. That's the sort of single ecosystem benefit that you get from Apple. You can use a controller if you're playing on an iPhone 15 Pro or an iPad. But again, I think that the experience is weak enough playing on an iPhone that you'll have more fun replaying this amazing survival horror game on a console or on a computer that has the hardware and has the power to be able to power it.
Now, you're a dad like I'm a dad. And have you figured this out, this part? I mean, the kids will do this. They will play on this tiny little screen. Now, I remember when I was a kid, we're about the same age, you and I, and we would, I remember when, dad got the first 32-inch old school tube TV, right? Like that was a big deal. And then you went to those big, ugly projectors that were on the floor that people can't get rid of today. Maybe you see them at the Odd Legion, stuff like that. But then into screens today. And yet the kids have gone, for our generation, the bigger the screens, the better. And for the young folks, they're going, sitting, watching on this tiny little screen. Like I walked in to my daughter's bedroom and she had the show on the TV. She has a 42-inch TV in her room. You imagine that when you're a kid. And then, but what she's doing is she got sucked into scrolling through TikTok on her phone. So the TV was on and she's scrolling through a 5-inch screen or whatever that is, 6-inch screen on her phone. And yet she's got the big TV in front of her. It makes sense to me to want to play these games on a big TV and have the immersive experience. Or am I just not getting it?
No, there's a difference between watching a TV show or watching a 30-second TikTok video and playing a game that requires you to interact with it and requires input and output from the device. And that's really what separates it. I think that it certainly is true that kids do not even think about passively watching things on smaller 5-inch screens. But the second that they try and interact with that, if it's a laggy, if it's a jaggy experience, they will go to something that is going to be responsive to their actions. And that hasn't changed. I remember throwing controllers around back in the 80s when things weren't responding to my input as quickly as I needed them to. That part hasn't changed.
Well, let's take a little second here and play this. It is the promo video introduction trailer for the Apple devices for Resident Evil 4. And let's take a look at it.
My escorts are. Father, trust me. I'm gonna get you home safe.
Resident Evil 4 on Apple devices, Blaine Kyllo, solocore.com, shiftheads.ca for the group, and shanehewitt.ca to connect with me as well. Thanks for being here. Now, Blaine, we were talking about this sort of immersive experience, and maybe it's because of the various Oculus goggles and everything that's come out. Apple finally has theirs coming out. They seem to be, well, first of all, priced way higher. No shock there, because that's what they do best. But they're going for real life futuristic as much as, if not more than, playing a video game, it seems.
Yeah, the Apple Vision Pro release date has been announced. It's coming out in the United States the end of February. No Canadian release date at this point, although there is some talk that we might see it in Canada by the end of the year. The Vision Pro is not virtual reality, and it's not actually only augmented reality either. It's both of those things. Apple's approach here is, why have one when you can do both? And so augmented reality, where you can see the real world through the goggles, but you have another layer of information over top of it because you're wearing the goggles. That's the primary experience that you have with the Vision Pro. But you also can go much more immersive, because what the Vision Pro allows you to do is essentially create a screen in front of you in that environment. And so while the environment is always there, you can have a virtual screen in your goggles that takes up that entire environment. So if you want to have a literal floor to ceiling, wall to wall screen, you can create that within the Vision Pro experience.
You know what actually got me thinking is decorating at home. If you want your house to look different, you don't have to paint your walls anymore with these. You just put these on, and all of a sudden, talk about people who aren't green thumbs and have no plants at home. You could have a house filled with plants and not have any of them die. And as long as you have your goggles on, your house is filled with furniture. You don't feel broke anymore.
How much nicer would our homes be if we were always looking at them through these goggles? But that's not the only thing you can do with the Vision Pro. You can watch movies. You can actually play games in this environment. You can record video. Notably, you can actually record 3D 4K video using these goggles. You can do all the productive things that you would typically do with a Mac computer or an iPad or an iPhone. You can send emails, you can do meetings in virtual environments, and all of these things you can do while you're wearing the Vision Pro goggles.
Real life through the eyes of RoboCop or the Terminator, if you will, to navigating around. I mean, I would imagine if you're going on a hike, I know it sounds crazy with technology on your face, but if you look up at the mountain, you could see the elevations of the mountain. I mean, we have apps today. When you look in the sky, you see where all the stars are, the constellations, the satellites, the airplanes, where they are, where they're headed. That could be on your face all the time. Now, have you given it a go? Do you know what this experience is like? Because I feel like vertigo could be a thing here.
No, I haven't tried this. The only comparable experience that I've had is Microsoft's HoloLens, which is in existence and is primarily now an industrial computing device. But when I tried HoloLens, when it was first being rolled out by Microsoft, it feels like it's very comparable to what the Vision Pro is going to do. And when I did the HoloLens, the most notable experience I had was playing Minecraft. And what I could do is I could create a surface, a virtual surface on any surface that was in my environment, and Minecraft would come to life in a 3D representation. Or I could create a screen on any wall, and that screen could be any size, and I could play games on that virtual screen that was in the goggles. My suspicion is that the Vision Pro will be very similar to that. But what the HoloLens experience that I had couldn't do is what you can do with the Vision Pro, which is actually navigate from icon to icon in the operating system simply by moving your eyes and activating things by tapping your fingers. You don't need anything but your eyeballs and your fingers to actually navigate the operating system of the Apple Vision Pro.
So now these are not glasses like that you see through like the old Google Glass, are they? These are actually like blocked off blinders. What you're seeing is through a camera, which begs a couple of questions. I mean, are they bulky? How do they fit? And if you're normally wearing glasses, do they correct for your eyes without it, or do you have to wear your glasses underneath it?
Yeah, these are full goggles. This is not just glasses. So they completely encapsulate your eyes. They have a light seal that is customizable.
Yeah, you're
So
looking at a screen essentially, right?
well, two actually. You've got one for each eyeball, and they align. And so um, the experience is that the thing fits completely over your face. It fits snug. It's customizable because it's a soft fabric. So you actually create a seal around your eyes, so no external light gets in. There are two straps, two bands on the device, one of which has actually been changed since the Apple Vision Pro was first released because it's a heavy device. And this isn't something necessarily that you're going to be wearing on your head for 10 hours a day. So the straps have got to be configured in the right way that we can carry that weight on our necks and not get ourselves in trouble.
Well, I guess you
And
don't need to worry about your hair if you got goggles on and you can tell it to fix your hair.
exactly. And
That's
if you
good.
do have a prescription, Zeiss is creating optical inserts, which will attach magnetically to the Apple Vision Pro. And so there will be standard readers, like just the magnifying lenses that you can get in any drugstore. Or if you have a prescription, you can actually order prescription lenses that conform to your prescription. And you can use those to change the view if it's not working for you.
So if you're at a family gathering and everybody's got these on, that could be weird. I don't know. It would look weird to me, but you wouldn't really know that everyone's has them on because your screens would be there. But if you got Weird Uncle Bob, you could just delete Weird Uncle Bob. So, there's benefits here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can delete people in the environment, but certainly Apple has considered what it looks like if you're wearing goggles and other people in the environment aren't. And so they've got this interesting thing where there's a camera that's inside the goggles that will actually project on the outside. There's a screen on the outside of the goggles. So if the system recognizes that you're speaking with somebody in real life in your environment, it will actually turn on a picture of your eyeballs on that screen so that the person you're speaking with
That's
can
weird.
see your eyes as if they were looking at your eyes through glasses and not you wearing some kind of an opaque goggle system.
That's still kind of weird. It just blink, blink, max headroom. I don't know. Okay. It's expensive, Blaine. It's just that simple.
It is $3,500 US when it goes up for pre-order on Friday, January 19th, releasing in the US on February 2nd. As I mentioned, we don't have dates right now for Canadian release, although there's some talk that it could be this year. This is not this is not an everyday consumer device. This is a quite high-end device. I don't think Apple expects to sell a ton of them, but I do expect that we'll see pretty rapid iteration on this as it gets out in the world, as new solutions for it, like your home design example that you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier. Like there are some really interesting applications of this that I think we might discover and Apple might discover in the coming months. So I expect we'll see a pretty rapid iteration on the Vision Pro, and with every iteration, as they drop some technology that they realize they don't need, I think that the price will come down.
It would be so interesting, though. I mean, if your house was basically empty, right? I mean, obviously you would need chairs and tables, but aside from that, I mean, even your chandelier, if you set your setting to, I don't know, North Ireland Castle, and then everything you see around your house when you look through your goggles looks like you're walking up a castle. I mean, the tactile thing would be a problem, of course, but really, this is kind of cool. I feel like there's so much technology that is fluffy and just trendy. And this kind of stuff seems like it's headed in a really cool direction. Big and bulky, all of that stuff. Yes, maybe when it becomes a little more simple, like a pair of glasses. But it's going to be interesting what this stuff brings.
I think it's pretty cool. You just have to make sure you don't try and sit on that virtual throne.
That's not there. That's not
It's
maybe not
actually there.
the throne. Yeah. Can it make your kids behave better? That's what most parents want to know.
If you put it on them and ignore them, maybe.
Ignore them. Blaine Kyllo, solocore.com, Shiftheads podcast. Go to shiftheads.ca to connect with our community on Facebook. And please do us a huge favor. It would be to share this, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's so many people have asked us, how can we help? That's exactly one way to do that, is share this with your friends and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that. Thanks for being here, Blaine.
Of course. Nice to see you.